Hello, welcome to Style with Ufoma Omoluru. If it's your first time on my channel, you're welcome. And for you not to miss any of my videos, you need to keep subscribing. And I also love to hear from you. So today I want to show you how to make a ruffled satin headband. Okay, so you can decide to use any fabric you want, but for me today on this channel, I want to use satin. So what you need for this particular tutorial, it's your headband. You can use just the plastic one, but for me, I want to use this one that is padded. So, but any headband is going to be perfect. So mine is 2.5 inches wide headband, and I'm going to get my strip of satin fabric. I'm going to be needing about 1 meter long fabric to make the ruffles for the headband. So you use a fabric that is a bit stiff and not too soft. If you're going to be using Ankara, then you need to use the polyester Ankara, because that will be easier to manipulate. So you need your scissors, your chalk, your glue gun, you need your material, and you need your tape rule. So you're going to measure the length, which is about 1 meter long, and the width of the fabric I'm going to be using is going to be 6.5 inches. So what determines how wide your fabric is should be the size of the headband you are using and how big you want the ruffles to be. So I'm using 1 meter. You can decide to use more than 1 meter. There's no hard and fast rule that you need to follow exactly my measurements. So I've cut that out and I'm going to put that aside. Now I'm going to cut 2 smaller strips of fabric, and this is for the beginning part of the band. If you look at the band, you notice that the beginning is kind of slimmer, is narrower at the bottom, and as it goes upwards, it becomes wider. So I'm going to measure that narrow part, which is about 1.1¾ inches. So that is going to be the bottom of the satin. So I want to make it as long as 5 inches. So I'm measuring that, and at that point where the 5 inches end, I need to check the width. So at that point the width is about 2 inches. So I'm going to take that into consideration when I'm going to be cutting the smaller strips for the headband. So I'm going to fold my fabric, the rest of the fabric from the long strip that I used earlier. So unfold into 2. I'm going to measure 5 inches. So I need 2 of those. So I'll need to get an iron it to be really flat so that it will be easy to cut. So once again, I'm going to repeat the measurement. 6.5 inches by 36 inches long. Then for the smaller one, at the base, I'm going to be using 1¾ inch. Then as it goes upwards, I'm going to be using 2 inches. So my fabric is already ironed. You can see it's flattened out nicely. So unfold. Instead of 1¾ inch, I'm going to be measuring 2 inches. Then at the top of the small strip of fabric, instead of doing exactly 2 inches, I'm going to be using 2¼ inches. The 1/4 inch that I leave there is going to be for the sewing allowance. So as it goes down, it tapers down to follow the shape of the headband. So I'm going to cut the two strips, the two smaller strips, the same size. I'm going to use the one I've cut now as a pattern to cut the second. So what this does is it covers the bottom of the band before we're going to add the ruffles to it. So now I need to stitch the sides, and after stitching the sides, I folded to keep the stitch in the middle before I close the bottom. So what that does is that where you have the stitch is not going to be on the side, but in the center of the headband. So now get something, anything long that you can use to turn this inside out. I didn't have to look far. I just said to use my scissors. You can use anything that works for you. So once this has been done, we need to give it a good press so everything is nice and flat. So you see I've ironed that. You need to be careful with your iron if it's satin. So you have the stitches in between. So now I'm just going to put my headband into the satin strip or the satin piece I've stitched together. So that just helps for the finishing of the headband. It just keeps it nice and neat. So if you're going to sell this, you really need to make sure that it's properly done. These are little projects you really can make money if you're a stay-at-home mom, or if you're looking for a passive income, or even if you're a creative person. This is something that is really easy and people love a lot because it's trendy and really chic. So it's a bit tight. I made it to be firm so that you just have to push, take your time and push until the band gets to the bottom of the piece you had stitched together. Okay, so that's done. So we have the two sides nicely taken care of. So what I do is at the point where this fabric that I put into the headband ends, I love to use my glue. So I just take my glue gun and I put some glue inside it so that it holds that fabric in place and it won't be moving. But before you put the glue, make sure that the center part where you stitch is aligned and is in the middle. So before we glue that, I'll put that aside and I'm going to get the main piece. Now for the main piece, remember is 1 meter long. So I am going to narrow out the bottom as well. But this time around, it's not going to be as narrow as the end part of the headband, but almost the size of where the satin ended. So 2 inches at the bottom. Unfold. So the bottom I'm going to taper just a little. So I'm not going to take anything off the main strip, just towards the end of the strip, the strip of fabric. So when you cut, you just cut in an A-line format. You shouldn't have curves or anything. They should just be straight. So now it's done. I'm going to stitch. I'm going to close this together. And you need to pay attention to this really, because as I stitch, I'm not going to close everything. I'm going to leave an opening in between. So you will notice that. So now before I finish doing that, I want to now my glue gun is hot enough. So I'm just going to apply the glue in between the band and the satin on the outside and on the inside. Make sure your glue gun is not too hot, because if it's too hot, it's just going to melt the wax so quickly that it can get really hot and burn you or get messy. So not too hot. and not too cold, so that it now becomes also kind of chunky inside your headband. If you don't have a glue gum, you can use your fabric gum, or you can also use needle and thread to achieve that. So now I've finished stitching, and you can see towards the bottom I left about 3 inches opening. Okay, and this you'll see why I did, because it's going to help me put in the band and still have my tapered ends. So I didn't iron this, because if you iron the satin, it's going to make it flat, and you don't want that happening. You want to keep the fluffiness. You want to make it rise. You make it like not, it shouldn't be flat. It needs to sit well. It needs to just fold and really look good. So if you iron that out, you may lose that bounce, and that's why I'm not ironing. So now I'm just going to push in the entire fabric. So you do that gradually. You just push along. You push along as you go on until you get to the end. So you can see the ruffles forming nicely already. So you just keep pulling. So if you want more ruffles, all you need to do is increase the length of your satin strip that we cut earlier. I used 1 meter. You can decide to use 1.5 or 1/4. So now the opening, you can see there, that needs to go and be in the center of the headband, underneath, not on top. But to close that, you can use your fabric gum, or I'm going to use the glue gum. So I'm trying to fold first, using my hand to just hold to create a line. Now I'm going to get my glue gun, not too hot, just the right temperature, not to burn your hands and not to get too light so that it drips over your material. So now I'm just going to close that up, as you can see, using my fingers, holding them together, and it closes up the opening. Yeah, so that's done. So now I'm going to move that. We need to move that to go to the bottom of the headband, not on top but underneath. So that's where the stitch is going to appear, not on top of the headband. You need to remember that. So now to finish up the edges nicely, I'm going to fold that inwards. You need to fold that inwards using your fingers. Just fold to create a nice flat line. So once you've done that, just push up a little, not too up. I'm going to push up to 5 inches that the little strip of fabric that I made for the finishing of the headband was about 5 inches long. I'm not going to use all the 5 inches long. So I'm going to end at about 3 inches down the line, leaving about 3 inches fabric before I add my glue again to glue that in place. So you're going to do that one after the other. I took this one of the sides, the left or the right, then I'm going to add the glue inside again to hold the fabric to the headband. Okay, flat, put that together, fabric to fabric. Then I'm going to add more glue and now glue to the band. So the gluing now keeps everything in place, and it won't make the ruffles keep moving. So it's just a very clean and easy way to finish up your headband. So you can see I've just done one of the sides. So I'm also going to go to the other side and do the same thing. So you see, to create things is really fun and easy. You don't want to forget that These are simple things that that you can use to make some passive income or some money, or just to keep yourself busy. Perfect gift for a friend. It's not really expensive to make. So if you've liked my video, do not forget, give a thumbs up, leave me a comment. I love to read from you. And also, you need to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss my videos as they drop. So voila, your satin ruffled hairband is ready. And this is a perfect summer accessory. Can be used for a dress, pants, leggings, anything. Kids can wear, adults can wear. It's a fun project and I enjoyed sharing this with you. So till I come your way next week, please bye from me.